All right, welcome back to another Rebooting the Blue. We've got Steve Bradley this time. Steve, thanks so much for being back on here with us.
My pleasure.
And today we are talking about how to build and stick to healthy habits. So um, let's get into it. So first, can you help us understand, Steve, what is a habit?
A habit is a repetitive behavior, whether it's something you do physically, maybe it's a way of relating to other people. It could also be a habit that's a mental habit. Certainly, many of our viewers understand muscle memory and developing some of those habits with their training that they just come automatically many times without thinking. Their
Hmm.
training kicks in.
Hmm. Okay. So habits are things that we can develop intentionally. And they're also things that kind of maybe just develop on their own as we go about our day.
That would be correct.
Okay. All right, cool. Why do we form habits? Why do humans form habits?
Well, humans form habits because it's an easier way of getting into a routine or having, um, some means of just automatically doing things so that we don't have to conscientiously think about something each and every time we do it.
Hmm.
A good example is when you get in your car, you're so used to driving, you do everything without actually consciously thinking about it, whether it's turning the car on, putting it into gear, checking your uh, blind spots in your mirrors. And when you make turns, you hit the gas or the brake and you use your turning signal, all of that without actually having to think about it. It makes our lives a little more efficient rather than having to consciously make a decision about, oh, I'm going to turn right. What do I need to do? I need to use my turning signal. I'm going to turn on my signal. Oh, I better start braking. We don't have to do that.
Yeah, that seems like a good thing in some cases.
Correct. In many cases, it is a good thing, but oftentimes we will develop bad habits or other behaviors that we'd like to change, or we come up with uh, habits or behaviors we would like to do, and we need to find some way of doing that.
Okay. Okay, so that kind of leads us into, how can we think about how habits can be changed?
How can we think about habits to be changed?
Like,
I
what
would,
are the factors, right? So, because it's not just like a goal, it's not just your like determination or your will. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into a habit forming and or changing a habit.
well, I think there's two ways to possibly look at this.
Hmm.
One is there's a habit that we do that we want to undo.
Okay.
Um, there's a great video out there, and I will send you the link so you can include it with this video, that talks about how to change a thinking habit.
Hmm.
Um, it goes back to a term that many people might be familiar with called neuroplasticity,
Hmm.
where our ability to learn and adapt in our mind is much like plastic, so it's flexible so that we can learn new things.
Hmm.
The the best example of neuroplasticity that I can think of is when you get into a new car to you, you
Hmm.
might have you know how to drive a car, but you might have to figure out where all the knobs and levers and buttons are as you go about doing what you want to do.
Hmm.
And especially if it's a new car to you that you're now driving, after a little bit, you develop that habit and everything becomes muscle memory. You don't think about it anymore. But initially, it's how far away and in which direction is the environment control,
Hmm.
or where is the hazard light, those kinds of things. Then you have habits of things that I don't do, but I want to do,
Hmm.
such as maybe I want to develop a new habit of eating healthy.
Okay.
Okay, so we got two different things here. Which direction would you like to go?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's go with um I think probably like the eating healthy route because I'm gonna guess that might be relevant to a lot of people.
Okay. Uh, so one of the things that because I've been actually thinking about this for several months,
Okay.
having listened to a podcast and interacting with patients, uh, what is it about people that we fail when we try to change something that we want to do?
Hmm.
Okay. Um, I think there's a lot of reasons, but a common one is let's take your t proverbial New Year's resolution.
Okay.
Somebody wants to get in shape. And so they decide, hey, I'm going to get a gym membership and I'm going to go to the gym. And as regular gym attenders know, and I've been one of them in the past, the gym gets really full through January and things start to settle down in February. And then by March, it's back to normal because many of
Mhm.
those people have good intentions, but they don't have what they need to get there.
Mm.
Um, and part of what I'd like to share today is just some of the things that might help somebody get there.
Mhm.
Okay. So the first question I would consider is what is it that somebody wants to do?
Mhm.
And part of that is making sure that you set an achievable goal. Okay. Somebody wants to get in shape. That's a great goal, but oftentimes their motivation to do all the work to get to that goal, it doesn't match the goal.
Mm.
They may have motivation, but it's not as grand as I'm going to go do this.
Mhm.
And so often they bite off more than they can chew. And then when they get to the gym and they only do a half an hour rather than a full hour workout, they're like,
Mhm.
it was not a successful day because I did a half an hour at the gym when I intended to do a full hour.
Mhm.
So they're kind of criticizing themselves for failure.
Mhm.
Mhm. Um, so I would say the first thing is to start with a behavior that matches the motivation and matching it in size. So maybe it's my motivation to eat healthy. I have some motivation, but it's not huge. So I'm going to start with something small.
Okay.
Okay. Good example is maybe I eliminate energy drinks. That's something small that I think is achievable that I can do on a repeated basis, day in, day out, and I can commit to it. It's not too big. My motivation to do that is probably about the right size. And so I will commit to not doing that. Now, on the flip side, if we're trying to stop something, oftentimes we have to replace it. So maybe I replace it with, as I've seen many officers do, water. Or they might actually replace it with soda, which even though you could question its health benefits, it's
Mhm.
certainly healthier than drinking an energy drink
Mhm.
in some forms, even if you drink a diet soda. Um, but finding something that is measurable, I'm going to stop drinking soda, and
Mhm.
achievable because it matches my motivation. And then when I have a week where I didn't drink any energy drinks or soda,
Mhm.
I can look at it and say, I did a day without it, or I did a week without it. And that leads to one other piece that I want to mention is we have to reflect regularly on our behavior and notice the changes that we're doing.
Mhm.
Okay. Earlier, I talked about how somebody might criticize themselves because they fail.
Mhm.
That's kind of the stick way of making changes where you hit yourself with a stick.
Mhm.
What I'm now talking about is reward yourself. And that could be as simple of, I did this today. For example, yesterday, I made a goal that I wanted to brush my teeth more than twice a day.
Mhm.
And yesterday I did it 3 times. And at the end of the day, I was pretty happy that I achieved that goal. So you have to also reward yourself, even if it's, I did what I planned to do and I achieved my goal.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, fantastic. So I'm hearing set an achievable goal, making sure that your motivation to make change matches the goal that you've set for yourself. So that way it's achievable. And then keeping in mind that if you're trying to stop something else, you might think about replacing it with something new. And then make it measurable and reflect, reward, and honor your achievements, even if it's a simple, just like self-recognition for making that change for X period of time.
Mhm. Yes. And let's say I want to not have an energy drink and I slip up and have one on one day. I'm
Hmm.
not going to beat myself up for it because I wasn't successful one day. I'm going to look at it from the other perspective. I did 6 days
Hmm.
without an energy drink.
Hmm.
So part of it is being kind to yourself, certainly challenging yourself, but also be patient, particularly if you're trying to add a new behavior.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love this. So let's also talk about I think a huge factor in habits is the environment around us, and how either that environment kind of makes it easier or harder for us to change or build a habit. So are you, and I think this kind of feeds into also that like neuroplasticity, right? Like what's the ease of the environment in which we're trying to kind of like get that rut in the road? I always think about like neuroplasticity is when we're trying to build those new connections or there's healthy habits, right? Like if we think about the ruts in the road that you see when you're driving, especially on 84, like there's some areas where they're, like not as deep, and there's other areas where they're like really deep. And so the more that we're able to engage in that healthy habit or the habit that we want to do consistently, kind of like the deeper the rut we're getting in the road, right? It's like that stronger that connection, the easier it is to just naturally do the habit. So we want to build that. And I just think about the environment. And so, and I mean like our home or our workspace or the car that you're driving in every day at work, right? Um, so are you familiar with Jonathan Haidt's The Elephant, the Rider, and the Path analogy? Oh, I lost your audio. I can't hear you. That's okay. Well, you figure that out. I'm going to talk about the elephant, the rider, and a path analogy because I think you're familiar with it. I think we've even like shown it in trainings together before. When we think about behaviors, there's kind of like three big factors also that we can think about from an intellectual standpoint. So there's the elephant, which is kind of like the emotion side of things. And the elephant is this just like massive, powerful creature that can drive behavior and change in one way or another. And then we can also think about like the rider, like rider, like the person that sat atop the elephant and is the intellectual side of things, right? And is giving the elephant this like huge emotional beast, the input on like go left, go right, go up the hill, go down the hill, go faster or slower. And so the elephant, like is when it's feeling pretty good and like it's early in the day and it's got the energy and the path is really simple, right? Like it's a flat path. There's not a lot of turns. There's nothing in the way. The elephant, it responds really well to the rider and it's like, yeah, I'll go down this way with you. But as the elephant like gets tired or there's a lot of turns in the road or all of a sudden the elephant is having to go up this major hill or try to climb over a boulder or there's a tree that's down in the way, eventually that elephant is going to get tired. It's going to stop listening. It's going to say like, screw this. I'm going the other way. This way's way too hard. And so when we think about behavior change, encouraging folks, at least, I'd love to hear your thoughts if we can get your audio back, is encouraging folks to think about um, not just the writer, which I think is where a lot of people go intellectually or naturally when they think about behavior change. And that was kind of maybe even to your point of like, they set this huge goal, right? And it's this kind of like intellectual, like, I want to, I don't know, lose 20 pounds or like eat super healthy every single day and no potato chips or no, like whatever you want to cut out. Like sometimes there are these really massive changes that from an intellectual standpoint are like, yeah, I could do that thing. And then you get into the emotion side of things, right? The more the elephant, the kind of powerful driving force behind a lot of things that we do. And the intellectual side of the brain can manage that elephant side of the brain pretty well for the most part when we're feeling great and we're not hungry and we're not tired and we're not thirsty and we're not like lacking some other basic need or like decision fatigued, right? Outside of our window of resilience. Like there's all these factors that can influence how well that writer can manage the elephant. Um, and so we only have so much influence or control over those two things, especially like people who are working stressful jobs. Like they're guaranteed to be stressed throughout the day, which is going to be pretty exhaustive to the rider and the elephant side. And so if like, let's build on your example of we're going to cut out energy drinks. So if you go home for lunch and you have said you're going to cut out energy drinks, but you're just feeling like really tired or really grumpy, if there's an energy drink available, it's going to be really hard for that rider to tell the elephant, like, don't drink the energy drink. The elephant's going to be like, screw you, I'm going to drink that, and then we're going to go back to work. But if you go home and, like you said, there's no energy drink available, like maybe there's a soda with a little bit of caffeine or something like that, right? Which, like, 50 milligrams of caffeine is way different than 300 milligrams of caffeine. Um, and so, maybe there's a soda and it's got 50 milligrams of caffeine, right? So you can give that elephant a little bit of something, but you're still reaching your goal of not drinking an energy drink because one isn't available. So essentially, you have created an environment for the elephant where the path is a lot easier. And so, a lot of times I like to just add that into the equation because I'm sure folks probably think about that when it comes to like purchasing healthy food at the grocery store and then you get home and it's late at night and you want chocolate and there's no chocolate available because the writer side of you did the grocery shopping and the elephant side of you is very upset about that. But there's like other ways that we can do that too, especially I think sometimes people set really uh like impressive or like big fitness goals and like you said get super frustrated with themselves when they don't meet those goals or even kind of like beat themselves up or stop trying to work towards it because they can't achieve this like massive maybe somewhat unreasonable to start with goal. So when I think about fitness, right, it's even thinking about like if you're actually currently doing nothing, and maybe like 6 months ago you were killing it, but something's happened, you haven't been doing anything for about 6 months, you don't have to go back to exactly where you were 6 months ago for it to count as a workout. And so thinking about like even if you don't have a gym membership, maybe that's why you haven't been working out. Maybe your gym membership lapsed. I don't know. Um, it's like, hey, you know what? I can do push-ups, I can do sit-ups, I can do jumping jacks. Like all those things sound super simple. You can do burpees, those suck, everybody knows it. Mountain climbers, like just thinking about even at home, like setting a reasonable, I'm gonna do, I don't know, 50 air squats a day, or this day I'm gonna do 50 air squats, the next day I'm gonna do 25 push-ups, the next day I'm gonna do 100 jumping jacks, right? Like we can even set those like super simple, achievable goals every single day that'll help move you back to where you were 6 months ago. But you don't have to go from zero to where you were 6 months ago for it to be a goal that's moving you in the positive direction. Nope, we still don't have your audio. That's okay. That's okay. So let's see. I think the other thing that I wanted to also kind of just bring up to folks, there's lots of like helpful stuff out there that's based on like science, brain sciences, and psychology around like building healthy habits. Um, I benefit in no way if you all get this, but there is a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear that just pulls together a bunch of research in a very like understandable, digestible, actually interesting way to read about habits. And it's a really helpful, insightful book just about looking at even the small things, right? That's why he calls it atomic. Like, what are the super small things that we can look at when it comes to habits? Um, Building them, changing them, stopping them. And one of the things that helped me a lot is when I think about like habits and the value of them is a quote from his book he says habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. They're the long-term investment of what you do today, right? And so a lot of times it can be hard to stick to those like healthy habits because we don't necessarily see like instant result from them. Even like, multiple weeks or multiple months, you might not see the results that you're wanting to see. But it's the same thing as like, I'm going to put, I don't know, $100 a month into an extra retirement savings account, right? Like, $100 a month into a savings account and you're just looking at that like once a month, like maybe it doesn't seem like a lot, but over a prolonged period of time, like a 25-year career, it's going to be a nice little extra chunk of savings. It's that kind of same concept for me when we think about healthy habits, especially even the small ones like drinking enough water every day. Energy drinks don't count as water.
Hmm.
Beer doesn't count as water. We have your audio back. Beer doesn't count as water, right? So it's just like, what are the little things that we can do every single day that we might not see or feel the payoff of that day, but they are compound interest for what we're going to experience later on in life, which of course, like we want the people listening, like working at our Lemois agencies to be feeling good and well about themselves now. And we want them to feel good and well about themselves when they retire.
So I'd like to dovetail on that and talking about the environment. One is the environment of our own head, where we often either discount what we do or we minimize what we do. Let's not deny that, if I'm going to get up and commit to drinking a glass of water every morning, it's a change that I'm trying to make. And you're right, the compound interest, because once I move from the water, I might move to something else and make another small step in the right direction. Learn from setbacks because oftentimes we do make mistakes. We have setbacks. That elephant hits a part of the trail where there's rocks in the way and might have to learn or figure out a way to remove those setbacks. And seeking support from other people, enlisting friends and family. One of the sneaky things to watch out for is when we want to make changes, we're certainly fighting our own self. But then how many times do we have people that might inadvertently say something that kind of discourages the change? Let's say I want to eat healthy, so I stop eating at fast food.
Hmm.
And everybody says, "Hey, let's go to McDonald's." I'm going to go to, somewhere else. I'm trying to eat healthy. Oh, look at Steve. He's trying to eat healthy now.
Hmm.
Or that kind of verbal response that basically kind of punishes us for trying to do something well. So just be aware of that because people will push back if you're trying to make a change that either they want to do or not doing, because it's easier to keep the status quo,
Yeah.
even for other people. So
Oh,
seek
yeah.
support.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And in fact, that kind of even makes me think, like, as we wrap things up, like maybe two little challenges we could leave with people. Like, for me, I'm thinking kind of challenge one is pick maybe one small habit that you want to change or build, something really small, like as simple as Steve said, like, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to drink a glass of water first thing. Like, that could be it. And then challenge two is if someone else tells you like they're trying to change, like you said, they're like, oh, I'm not eating fast food right now. Like, don't give them shit about it. Support that change. Like maybe like, oh, okay, cool. Let's hit a taco stand, right?
So there's two books out there, and I don't remember the author of one, but I saw it on an officer's desk called Make Your Bed.
Make your bed.
And I forget, it's a military general or colonel that wrote that book.
William H. McRaven. What a last
That's the one.
name. McRaven. Okay.
That's the one. Um, I'm quite confident it talks about using simple things of accomplishment, even if it's just making your bed.
Hmm.
You get into a habit of making your bed. Another book that I would recommend is called How to Do the Work.
Okay.
And it's by Dr. Nicole LePera, Lepera. It's very readable. It talks about how people do the change, whether it's a behavioral change or
Hmm.
making change in their with their emotional health.
Oh, interesting. All right. I love this. Okay. So as we wrap it up, any final thoughts, Steve, on behavior change or challenges you want to leave people with?
For me, the biggest one is find something small that you can start to either add or subtract from your life that you want to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
Get into a habit and commit to that small little change. Stay persistent, and then maybe in a month or two, you might add something else. You know, maybe it's, in a month instead of, I've stopped with energy drinks and I've shifted to maybe a caffeinated uh, soda that has fewer calories and such. I might actually move to, oh, I think I'm going to add one fresh fruit in my day
Mm-hmm.
and commit to making sure that I eat one fresh fruit. When you start stacking these small things, and you already alluded to it, by the time you get through till next year, you'll have made several different changes and on your road to the bigger change. And I forget what you called it, but something is the compound interest.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
was that quote? I like that quote.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to pull it up again. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. And that's from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits.
Yep. And those small compound interests, I mean, it doesn't seem like much at the time, but when we start building up, especially things that our motivation is low for, but we want to move in that direction.
Yes, especially when that I would imagine would be cutting out energy drinks. Awesome, Steve. Thanks so much for joining us again. Always great to have you. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.